Now, next up is a good friend of mine. She's a semi-regular host on my show, and she's also a researcher at the University of Sunshine Coast. It's Holly Warland. So please welcome Holly onto the stage.
I'm just going to turn sideways so I can see what's on my PowerPoint. Hi everyone, I'm Holly Warland, as Jack just said. I'm a PhD candidate at University of the Sunshine Coast, and I'm doing it in neuropsychology. So that's a long fancy word for studying the brain. So I'm here to talk to you about my thesis that I completed last year for my honours degree. It's recently in the process of being in publication, so that is exciting. So my thesis was called Theory of Mind, Emotion, Expression and Deception Detection in Autistic and Normal Adults. So regardless of your level of extroversion, we all know that social interaction can get difficult. You have to soak in body language, facial expression, timing, nuances, speed, content within milliseconds to find out the intentions of your communicator. Kind of swirling thoughts of, was he being sarcastic when he said that, or is she really working late tonight, can sometimes cause significant distress. And as rewarding as interpersonal communication can be, it can also be very challenging. So scientists call the ability to intuitively detect another's meaning, behaviours, thoughts and intentions theory of mind. Children around 4 to 5 years old, but some as young as 3, begin to understand that others don't necessarily share their perspective. This is often tested by asking small children to complete consider a small scenario where they and another observer have different perspectives. For example, the child may be sitting opposite a toy sheep, but their dolly is sitting opposite a toy cow. They are then asked the very simple question, what can Dolly see? Very young children cannot separate their own mind from another's and incorrectly assume that Dolly sees what they see, a toy sheep. It is not until about 4 years of age that they can confidently separate their own mind from another's and correctly answer that they see a sheep but Dolly sees a cow. However, theory of mind does not begin and end in childhood. How can you tell if someone is being truthful? I think that's where my thesis wraps into the whole skepticism thing. How can you tell if someone's lying? How can you tell if they're trying to suppress an emotion from you? All these trickier applications of theory of mind improve throughout childhood, adolescence, and even into adulthood. Most of us aren't even aware that our theory of mind is constantly on duty to detect others' moods, state of mind, expressions, or even more sophisticated abilities such as sarcasm, lying, or deliberate attempts to suppress an emotion to show another one. Theory of mind comes naturally to most, but it can be difficult for those with autistic spectrum disorder, which I'll refer to as ASD. I've been interested in ASD for a long time, before I saw Rain Man, which is 99.9% very inaccurate. So do not think that all autistic people are savants who can count, what was it, matchsticks on the floor or some shit. I was so angry watching that film. It wasn't heartwarming for me. So I've been fascinated with ASD for a long time, and this is why I was interested in gauging the ASD samples and the general public's ability to read facial expressions, and also to see how well they can detect deception. I was going to make a joke about vaccines causing autism, but we've already covered that many times. So to investigate these differences between neurotypical, which is a fancy word for normal. I hate the word normal, but I also hate the word neurotypical, but my supervisor can't come up with anything else better. So to investigate the differences between neurotypical and ASD adults, 788 participants completed my online facial expression and deception detection task. We determined whether a participant was deemed to be autistic based on their previous mention of a clinical diagnosis. So when they did the test, they put in, have you ever been diagnosed as having Asperger's or high functioning autism or autism? Or if they didn't put that in, we caught them out with or whether they scored highly on an autism quotient test that has been normed and validated and reliable many times in the literature. So the facial expression test consisted of identifying an expression using only an actor's eyes and choosing from 4 choices of what emotion it could be. The deception detection test was a scenario where the participants had to read and then answer questions about whether the protagonist in the story was lying or not. The massive sample size was a delightful surprise to me as a lowly honours student, desperate for people to participate. If I'm friends with some of you on Facebook and Twitter, I begged, like really begged, and it worked, so begging works. It seems that people are curious and eager to test their social skills, because I think most of us believe in the fallacy that we're better than most people at picking up on social cues, which can't be statistically right because not everyone can be better than average. So let's test it. All right, so hopefully if this works, point over there. Okay. Oh, that was a bit loud, sorry. So I'm going to give you 3 examples of what was on my emotion expression test. Now, before you answer, I want you all to close your eyes because, obviously look at the picture first and then close your eyes, because this can very much be crowd driven, and if any of us knows anything about psychology, you are most likely to follow the crowd even if you disagree with them. However, you might be the smart ones if you disagree with them, because you might have the proper gut instinct about this and know it. All right, so can everyone see what the choices are? No? I'll have to move, okay. How about now? You're all good? All right, so go with your gut instinct. Do not think about it too much. All right, everyone close their eyes in 3, 2, 1. All right, put your hand up if you said concerned. Interesting. Embarrassed? Guilty? Ooh. And fantasizing. Wow, that's okay. Open your eyes. Let's see what the answer was. Oh, double click. Yeah. So most of you did get it right. I'd say probably 2/3 of the room. So if you didn't go with your gut and you thought you could outsmart your own gut, then go with your gut with this next one. I know gut isn't a real thing, but... All right, you shouldn't have too much time, otherwise you overthink it. Everyone know their answer? All right, close your eyes. Arrogant. Ooh. Grateful. Tentative. Sarcastic. Oh, wow. Okay, open your eyes. It was nearly a 50-50 for tentative and sarcastic. Who here's got two in a row right? That's only a small amount if you look around. Okay, last one. All right, everyone read them? Everyone know? Close your eyes. Hands up for nervous. Contemplative. Insisting. And puzzling. Oh, this one was pretty much, I reckon 3/4 got the right answer. So yeah, I thought I saved the hardest one till last, but you guys are good. All right, so as previous research has demonstrated, and as many parents, friends, partners or siblings of people with ASD can tell you, the the ASD participants performed significantly worse compared to the neurotypical participants on this facial expression task. So with 36 of those, so you sit down at your computer, go through them all, obviously click the right answer instead of putting your hands up. So the majority of people did do pretty well though, which is what we saw in here, scoring average or above, which is statistically expected. But yeah, it was interesting. I think it was only the highest was about 3/4 of the room, so there's still a quarter of you who suck at this. So here's something that was one of my favourite bits of what we found out from this research, because this has never been done with such a big sample size before. The original test called Reading the Mind in the Eyes by Simon Baron-Cohen, if any of you have read any of his stuff, he is actually the actual cousin of Sacha Baron Cohen, so I thought that was pretty cool. So one thing that was pretty amazing and surprising was that there were no significant differences for either group, ASD or neurotypical, in gender, despite the popular proposition that women are often better at these social skills and reading faces and being all being all lovey-dovey and all that shit. So there is no difference with our massive sample size. I'm not saying that we've blown the theory out of the water by any means, but it was a big sample size and there was no difference, not even nada. I was very surprised. I ran the test so many times thinking it was wrong. All right, so I started this research with the hypotheses that the neurotypical participants would perform better than the ASD participants in both the facial expression and the deception detection tasks. This assumption was quickly proven wrong as I delved deeper into the data, which is what we all love about science, being wrong. So the deception detection task consisted of 2 scenarios with follow-up questions relating to the character's deceptive actions and language. The theory of mind was tested by asking the participants to consider the thoughts and responses of another person and to interpret their true meaning. Previous research suggests that we reach our peak theory of mind levels by our teenage years. Therefore, I predicted that all of my participants, as you had to be over the age of 18, predicted that most of the neurotypical participants would answer the questions correctly. They're all adults, they should have an adequate understanding of lying. Discovering that this prediction was incorrect was a highlight of my research. Only 45% of all the normal participants answered the questions correctly. Less than half of them could engage their advanced theory of mind skills to figure out if an imaginary character was being deceived. So to me that meant that you're shitter in real life if you can't do an imaginary. And also within this fascinating discovery was another oddity. The neurotypical participants, who were over the age of 35, performed significantly better than the younger participants in the deception detection task. These results support the notion that with age comes wisdom. There hasn't been much research about whether your theory of mind does improve with age, but this could be the starting it. It makes sense that the more life experience you have, the better equipped that you'll be to handle and interpret difficult social circumstances. So what does this all mean for people in everyday life and the skeptic community? To me, it confirms my long-held belief that we all think we're better than we really are, and sometimes we need to admit that we're a tad stupid in some social areas, and that's okay, because we're human. One of these areas is advanced theory of mind deception detection. That is a mouthful, I hate saying that. Also, these research findings have emphasised the importance of remembering that everyone is on a spectrum, not just those with ASD. Humans vary dramatically in their social abilities and no one is normal. So I'm using what I've learnt with this thesis that I completed last year. This research results to now attain my PhD in developing an evidence-based app, which are very rare. I've done a bit of research on it and you can buy any app that's out there and most of it has had no testing behind it, so you don't know whether it will work or not. So I'm going to develop an evidence-based app game that will hopefully help autistic children to recognise and read facial expressions better and sharpen their social interaction skills. And if a few of you follow me on Twitter, I often post about my cat because I'm a little bit obsessed with her. Her name is Hypatia. And yeah, I promised her I'd end the show with this. Thank you for listening.
Does anyone have any questions for Holly before we move on to the next topic? No? How good was that? Just another round of applause, please, for Holly there.